Here's a statistic that will blow your mind. The average American household has over 300,000 items, yet 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Meanwhile, Buddhist monks, who own practically nothing, report the highest levels of contentment and mental clarity in psychological studies. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor who controlled the wealth of an entire empire, wrote in his personal journal, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." But what if I told you, the real secret to wealth isn't found in what you own, but in what you're willing to live without? Today, I'll show you why saying no is the single greatest financial skill most people never develop. This video is different. It's deeper. We're not talking about budgeting apps or investment strategies. We're exploring financial minimalism, an ancient philosophy that modern millionaires have quietly adopted while the masses chase endless consumption. I know because I've been there. I used to think more was always better. I was wrong. I remember standing in my garage 3 years ago, surrounded by boxes of things I'd bought but never used. A $300 juicer, exercise equipment gathering dust, gadgets that promised to change my life but only changed my bank balance. In that moment, I realized I wasn't building wealth. I was collecting expensive distractions, trading my freedom for clutter. I wasn't adding value, I was adding noise. Here's what I discovered. Every yes to something unnecessary is a no to something essential. Every purchase that doesn't serve your highest purpose is stealing from your future self. The ancient Stoics understood something that our consumer culture has forgotten. True wealth isn't about having everything you want, it's about wanting nothing you don't need. This is emotional resilience in finances at its purest form. Today, we're going to dive deep into how Stoic wisdom can transform not just your bank account, but your entire relationship with money and possessions. Let me introduce you to Epictetus, a man who understood scarcity better than any modern financial advisor. Born a slave in ancient Rome, he later became one of history's most influential philosophers. Despite having nothing, he developed principles that would guide emperors and shape civilizations. Epictetus taught a radical concept. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. But here's the part that blows my mind. Epictetus wasn't just talking about happiness. He was laying out a blueprint for bulletproof finances in any era. Think about it. If you need less, you fear less. If you fear less, you make better decisions. If you make better decisions, you build real wealth. This isn't just ancient wisdom, it's the bedrock of every millionaire's mindset I've ever studied. The revolutionary power isn't in saying yes to opportunities, it's in saying no to everything that doesn't serve your highest financial purpose. Here's where most people get it completely wrong. We live in a culture that equates options with freedom. More choices, more happiness, right? Wrong. Psychologist Barry Schwartz proved this in his groundbreaking research on the paradox of choice. When faced with too many options, humans become paralyzed, make worse decisions, and report lower satisfaction levels. This isn't just about picking breakfast cereal, it's destroying our financial lives. The modern consumer faces over 3,000 advertising messages per day. Each one is designed to create artificial scarcity and manufactured desire. Limited time offer. Only 3 left in stock. You deserve this. Sound familiar? Limited time offer. But here's the hidden cost nobody talks about. Decision fatigue. Every choice you make, whether to buy that coffee, upgrade your phone, or try that new subscription, depletes your mental energy. By the time you need to make important financial decisions, your willpower is already exhausted. Ancient wisdom called this mental clutter. Modern neuroscience proves it's real. When your environment is filled with excess, your brain cannot focus on what truly matters. You become reactive, not intentional, and that's how money slips through your fingers. The Stoics had a different approach. They practiced something called preferred indifference, a systematic way of categorizing what truly matters versus what merely appears to matter. Marcus Aurelius, remember, controlled the wealth of an empire. Yet he wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." Not because he couldn't afford anything, but because he understood that true power comes from conscious choice, not unconscious accumulation. Here's the framework they used, and it's brilliant. Essential, things that directly serve your core purpose and values. Food, shelter, meaningful relationships, tools that generate income. Preferred, things that enhance your life but aren't necessary. Quality items that last, experiences that create memories, investments in your future self. Indifferent, everything else. The 90% of consumer products designed to solve problems you don't actually have. The ancient principle is simple. Say yes to the essential, be selective with the preferred, and automatically say no to the indifferent. This isn't about living like a monk, it's about living like a philosopher. Minimalism isn't about less, it's about more of what matters and nothing that doesn't. Now let's make this practical. Imagine opening your banking app and seeing more left over, not because you earned more, but because you needed less. Picture that feeling of financial security that comes from knowing you have enough, always. Here's what financial minimalism looks like in practice. First, the 24-hour rule. Before any non-essential purchase, wait 24 hours. If it's expensive, wait longer. The ancient Stoics called this the discipline of desire. Modern psychology calls it impulse control. I call it wealth insurance, and it costs nothing but self-control. Second, the one-in, one-out principle. Before bringing anything new into your life, something else must go. This forces you to weigh opportunity costs. That new streaming service? Which one are you canceling? That new gadget? What's it replacing? Third, the purpose filter. Every expense must pass this test. Does this serve my highest financial purpose? If the answer isn't an immediate yes, it's a no. Here's where it gets interesting. When you eliminate the non-essential, you suddenly have surplus capital for the truly important. That emergency fund you've been trying to build, now you can fund it. That investment opportunity you've been unable to afford, now it's possible. But here's the deeper transformation that happens when you embrace financial minimalism. This is the ultimate upgrade. From consumer to creator. From seeking comfort to seeking freedom. Think about it. When you're constantly buying solutions to problems, you're in a reactive state. You're responding to marketing, emotions, and external pressures. But when you practice conscious restraint, you develop what the Stoics called internal locus of control. I've seen this transformation in my own life and countless others. When you stop filling your life with stuff, you start filling it with purpose. When you stop spending money on distractions, you start investing in opportunities. When you stop being impressed by what others have, you start being impressed by what you're building. The psychological shift is profound. Scarcity thinking, the fear that there's never enough, gets replaced by abundance thinking, the confidence that you have enough to handle whatever comes. Ancient wisdom teaches us that the person who can say no to what they don't need will always have yes available for what they do need. This isn't just philosophy, it's practical financial psychology. Here's where financial minimalism becomes a wealth-building superpower. Compound effects. Every no to an unnecessary expense is a yes to your future self. But it's not just about the money you save. It's about the decisions you don't have to make, the debt you don't accumulate, the stress you don't carry. Let me give you a real example. The average American spends $1,200 per month on non-essential purchases. That's $14,400 per year. Invested at 7% annual return, that becomes $1.4 million over 30 years. Over 30 years, that's not just a number, that's generational wealth, built one no at a time. But here's the part that will shock you. That's just the monetary compound effect. There's also the psychological compound effect. When you practice saying no to small things, you develop the muscle to say no to big things. Bad investments, toxic relationships, time-wasting activities, they all become easier to reject. The Stoics understood this. They called it spiritual discipline, the practice of voluntary constraint that creates involuntary strength. Modern behavioral economics calls it ego depletion prevention. I call it building your financial immune system. So, let me ask you directly, what would your life look like if you only said yes to things that truly served your highest purpose? What would happen if you stopped trying to buy happiness and started creating it? What would change if you measured wealth not by what you could afford, but by what you could choose to live without? Here's your financial philosophy challenge. For the next 30 days, practice the ancient art of saying no. Before every purchase, ask, does this serve my essential purpose, or is it just another distraction? Remember what Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Your financial freedom isn't determined by how much money you make. It's determined by how much money you keep and how much control you maintain over your own desires. Freedom isn't about having everything. It's about needing less and choosing wisely. Every master minimalist started with one no. What's yours? Share below. Your story could be the inspiration someone else needs to start their own financial minimalism journey. If this deep dive into financial philosophy resonated with you, subscribe to keep feeding your millionaire brain. We're building a community of people who understand that true wealth comes from wisdom, not just money. Remember, mastery begins with a single decision. Start by saying no and watch your life transform.